Well, hey there, idiots. Welcome back to Observe. In today's video, we're doing something kind of a little bit different than we have in the rest of these videos. It's gonna... what? I think I'll just explain more after the intro. Let's go ahead and roll that first. Okay, so back when I started this channel 10 years ago, body language was not common on the internet at all. There were only maybe 1 or 2 channels, including myself, that really talked about nonverbal communication, how it can be used, and the reading thereof. Now, as time has gone on and the topic has become more and more popular in just general conversation, there have been more and more channels popping up. And while this has been on some levels good, there has also been some negatives around that as well. One of the negatives is that many people can spread misinformation about nonverbal communication, how accurate it can be, the reliability of certain tells, the generalization of other tells, complications like that. And then there's another area that I have difficulty with, which is where people are taking the information of how to read and utilize nonverbal communication and then twisting it around to where it's a very selfish tool rather than a very useful social tool that it can be. So with me, I always prefer to approach nonverbal communication as a way to be able to better relate to and understand the people around you and also yourself. But unfortunately, that is not the universal way that people present this. And in today's video, I'm going to be going through a specific video that is centered around body language hacks, which I have difficulty with these in general. We'll talk about them as we go through. And these body language hacks are specifically centered around the the endlessly frustrating to me, like ultra masculine, alpha male kind of bullshit that I just really don't see eye to eye with. And I find a lot of frustration in. Anyways, enough of that. We're gonna go ahead and dive right into these and we'll these are 10 body language tricks that everybody is supposed to know, but it's centered around what a man is supposed to know about body language I'm already getting upset, which I feel like is gonna be probably a theme of this video, but yeah, let's dive in.
Most communication is nonverbal, yet 99% of men do not know how to read body language, let alone use it to their—
I'm already
99% of nonverbal.
Okay, well, thank you for presenting that. I don't know why he's yelling at us about it, and already with his nonverbal communication alone. Steepling pose. This is a power move. This is a power play. It's not necessary. He's also sitting with his knees and legs further apart than they need to be. Your body really doesn't need to take up more than the frame that it actually exists in. Anything beyond that can be seen as a compensation. And anytime that you see a slew of these compensation style nonverbal communication tells from a person, it gives you an idea about the security that they have in and of themselves. Already we're seeing these intentional things that indicate that he's not comfortable with himself. He needs to present
like he's some sort of tough boy.
Which I feel is counterintuitive, but that's just the start. So anyway, let's keep going.
Use it to their advantage. So I compiled a list of 10 body language tricks every man should know about, and then I'm going to show you how to use them. By the end of this video, you will learn exactly what you need to—
Just so aggressive. His tone is so—
10 nonverbal tips by the end of this video.
Whoa. Just calm down. It's fine. All of his nonverbal communication during this time is still rather stilted and desynchronized in and of itself. He also maintains this aggressive expression across his face with the lowering of his eyebrows drawn together. That's in the vein of anger or frustration. And then along with that, we're hearing that projection and force behind his voice. This isn't something that is actually exuding confidence of a genuinely confident human being. This is somebody who is trying to play act confidence, and it comes across as forced and fake to anybody who knows what they're looking at. So we're seeing that very clearly from him already, and we're already hearing him, he said, to use nonverbal communication to your advantage. More or less, it's manipulating nonverbal communication so that you can manipulate other people, which is technically a thing you can do, but as a morally okay person, you probably shouldn't do that. Already I'm having qualms with this, and this is just one of numerous examples of videos on the internet exactly like this. So let's watch it.
by just positioning your body, how you can become more attractive, more likable, more dominant, and more confident. Starting with number 1, how you come in for a handshake. Look, a strong handshake is important, and I'm going to show you how. But how you hand in the handshake is even.
That's true. A good handshake is actually a very important portion of the first initial point of contact. That's usually one of the first physical points of contact that you can make with a stranger or a new acquaintance, or even somebody that you know, is a handshake. So having a good handshake is encouraged, and there are some things to do to have that. But it's not what he's explaining here, and we'll talk about what he explains and then the actual psychology behind it, and then the reasonings that a person who is actually confident in and of themselves should compose themselves rather than this kind of ridiculous caricature that he's almost made of himself here. So let's watch.
The handshake is even more important. These are the two tricks you're always going to want to remember. A man that comes in with their hand, with their palm facing upwards, is coming in as a sign of submission, of intimidation. Subconsciously, it's like he's showing
Submission, yes. Hands upwards, palms upwards. This is an open nonverbal communication. It's showing that you have nothing to hide, and then holding your hand out for a handshake with your palm up is a submissive handshake. That's true. Intimidation? Absolutely not. It has nothing to do with intimidation. It just simply has to do with the mindset of the person shaking hands. They're being more open and submissive towards you during this interaction. Now, that could mean that they are just a submissive person that you can push around like this guy seems to be presenting, or the possibility is that they want to become non-threatening or appear as non-threatening to whoever they're meeting. So there are multiple positions on this, so palms up, palms down is very much a real thing. It's just not the way that he's presenting it. So let's continue.
It's like he's showing he has nothing to hide. However, the guy that comes in with his palm facing down is more dominant, more confident. As for a strong handshake, it's simple.
And that's one of the things that I do take a lot of issues with, is that a lot of these channels are focused super heavily on dominance, which I find to be rather ridiculous, and it's not really a sign of intellectual capability of keeping tabs of where they are socially. You do not need to be dominant in every area for you to be able to succeed at life, find happiness in life, and also be well received by social groups in life. Dominance is not necessary. There are areas where dominance can be handy. Say, for instance, you're in like a business meeting and you have to get a specific sale and you want to be able to present yourself as in control of that situation, sure, go for a more dominating position. But in every situation, that can often come across as annoying or abrasive, not dominating, just ridiculous. Now, if you do shake either way, sometimes that's just how you learned. There's that possibility. But if you want to be able to have a good, cohesive handshake that just feels equal, try to keep your hand equal. Don't too far either direction, put it straight out and then it connects. That's not what he's about to say.
It's simple. Just keep your pointer finger out. That means you're not going to use your pointer finger to wrap around the other guy's hand, and instead keep it pointing straight out. This won't allow the other party to fully be able to grip your hand, and therefore your grip will appear to be bigger and stronger. Number 2.
All right. So with that is called a finger probe handshake. It's one of the big no-nos of handshakes. You don't do the weird finger probe because it makes whoever you're shaking hands with uncomfortable. It's not dominating, it's just an improper handshake. Another form of uncomfortable, incorrect handshake is the one where you just let your hand fall limp. That's what people would call the dead fish handshake. That would be one that, again, it's not conveying confidence. Now that's not a hard, fast rule. Again, this is just a handshake. If you can, try to have a decently firm handshake. If you can't, it's okay. There's a lot more to you than just your handshake. Don't do the probe. Don't do the dead fish. And another one is don't do the vice grips. It's where you grip real hard. Again, it's a compensation. It doesn't come across as confident. It comes across as insecure. So already we've seen a number of things that he's presenting that instead of it presenting him as this real confident person that he's trying to present himself to be, an alpha male, if you will, it's really just presenting him as insecure in and of himself. If you want to be confident, don't do these things like this. That's the rule of thumb so far. Let's keep going.
2. Call it the eyebrow flash. You probably didn't even catch it. It happens between 1/5 of a second. This can be used professionally and in a way to agree and make the other person feel as if you're interested in what they're saying. Romantically, it has
This is another one of these power gesture moves. He's going like this sort of thing. It's similar to the steepling move. It's unnecessary and it comes across more douchey rather than in control of a situation. You can use this in areas that it's appropriate. Again, perhaps a business meeting, or if you're thinking heavily on something, this sort of thing can happen. If you catch yourself doing that out of just habit or something, then that works out okay. That's not how he's using it. So that, not even the focus of this little tip that he's talking about, is another point that's irking me, rubbing me wrong, and something that you probably shouldn't do non-verbally if you're actually wanting to seem control and relatable to the people around you. Now, the thing that he's talking about, the eyebrow flash, this is an emphasis flash, it's a recognition flash. If you would like a better breakdown, a more extensive breakdown as to what the eyebrow flash could mean, and oftentimes does mean, I heavily suggest you go and check out Spidey over at the Behavioral Arts. He does a video on this. I'll link it in the description of this video, where he talks about the studies that go into this, what people have found out about the eyebrow flash, and what it actually means rather than this guy's presentation of it. He's presenting it as a manipulation point. Even if you're not listening to somebody or paying attention to somebody, use an eyebrow flash. It shows engagement, blah, 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 which is true, or alternatively, just pay attention to people and allow your body language to do that in and of itself. Don't force it, otherwise it will come across as forced, fake, and desynchronized. All of what he's presenting is coming across as extremely desynchronized, which leads people who are watching him to feel like it's forced and fake. And that's not the impression that he's wanting to give, but it is the one that he is giving. So there you go on that one. Let's keep watching.
It has the exact same approach. When you're on a date, you can flip out the eyebrow flare to show high level of interest, which makes them feel good to be around you. In other words, you will use this to increase liking, increase engagement, and show interest. Number 3, the
Again, manipulate using nonverbal communication, which I find to be gross. You can manipulate using nonverbal communication, even unintentionally. Many people will do that very naturally. They present nonverbal communication that they know people will like and appreciate around. It's part of being socially acceptable and fitting in your social circle. That's not the overt level that this person is talking about, where he's wanting to use these nonverbal cues that we are evolutionarily ingrained to understand and feel things about to get specific reactions out of people and out of social circles. Now, if that's what you want to do with your social circles, if you want to manipulate everybody around you into liking you, then, I mean, have at it, but that throws into question you yourself. It doesn't throw into question the social circle or anything along those lines. If you feel like you have to manipulate the people around you just to like you, maybe you're not in the right social circle, or maybe there's things that you should adjust or introspect about yourself to be able to become more socially acceptable to the groups that you're in. All sorts of possibilities. Again, you don't need to fall back onto manipulation to be able to get people to like you. Next point.
3, the Duchenne smile. This is a smile that is characterized by the crow's feet that's formed around the eyes. It's considered to be the genuine smile. According to research,
So, during this time, he's doing his Duchenne smile, but he's doing a forced version of it, which again is going to show desynchronization. And the point that is showing the desynchronization in this is the consistency and concreteness of the smile that he's presenting. Yes, it reaches his eyes, which is pointing towards a genuine smile, but it's also staying extremely stagnant in the way that it functions. So that lets us know that it's a forced smile. He's not feeling happiness there. He's not feeling joy there. He's forcing a smile regardless of where it is on his face. Now that's the desynchronization point that he's having here. If you would like to be able to push yourself into a better mood, you can fake a smile like that until you start feeling in a better mood. There were experiments done where people held pencils in between their teeth for a certain amount of time, and then there were people who didn't, and then at the end of that time, each group was asked, how did you feel throughout that day of doing certain things? Now the people that were holding the pencils between their teeth, it forced them into a level of smiling throughout the day, and they reported feeling better throughout their day as opposed to the people who didn't. So there is that psychological facet to it that is absolutely correct. It does release endorphins. It does change your body chemistry a little bit. So there is that possibility. But again, if you're trying to use this as a manipulation point, people can pick up on that, and many people will feel the offness of it, not being certain why it feels so wrong, because it's reaching their eyes after all. And it's because it's so stationary. Genuine emotions, they move, they change on your face as you're experiencing them. If you see anybody with a very set, concrete emotion, does not change, does not alter, has no profile, has no fall off, if you see that happening, then you have some questions. Now, it can be that they're psychologically elsewhere. Perhaps they're faking a smile and they're thinking about something else. There are any number of possibilities as to why it could be faked and forced and why you can notice it. So if you're wanting to really fake that you're happy, try to find a way to smile in a way that does not consistently hold on for that long. And perhaps you can then trick your own body into feeling more happy, your own psychology into feeling more happy, and then that will allow you to actually smile genuinely. Smile in response to things that are smile worthy. If you don't, then there runs the distinct risk of it being extremely detectable and off-putting. Let's go ahead and continue.
Endorphins are released within our body when we see another person smile in this way at us. To pull this off, you need to learn how to smile with your eyes by raising your cheekbones every time you smile. Then, you're going to deploy this every time you want people to like you back. Alright, already from the first three.
Alright, so I'm even going to pause here. So if you saw the little clip that he himself used of those people in a group one, also very staged, so we can expect to see some sluggishness in the emotional expressions that you might see, but even those people, their expressions were changing more so than his very forced fake smile. That's because, socially speaking, the smile that was being had, specifically by the gentleman in the middle, he was reacting to the people around him, and that causes his emotion to change and to shift because it's a social interaction. And again, we are social creatures, so we will feed off of each other's nonverbal communication and psychology as we interact with it. That's how we function. With his presentation of it, with this guy's presentation of it, it's again a manipulation point that could come across forced, desynchronized, and disingenuous, which is not what anybody wants from a social interaction. It makes anybody feel uncomfortable. And it's not around dominating, it's not around confidence, it's just around manipulation. So if you're wanting to be more confident and more secure and accepted in your social groups, don't fake a smile like this. It will come across as desynchronized. To people who are used to watching nonverbal communication or just are more attuned to it, they can still pick up on those disingenuous tells. Let's continue.
The first three, you already are perceived as more dominant, more likable, and more interesting. We're taking it up a notch. These next three I'm about to show you will change how people perceive your attractiveness. Which takes me to number 4. Look straight ahead when you walk. Most men are walking rushed with their head down to avoid eye contact. But look at the immediate difference walking with your head high has on your confidence.
Yeah, you look like a dick. I don't know how else to say that. None of this has to do with just men. It's across the entire spectrum of gender. If you look forward and you keep your head high, that does exude confidence for sure. That being said, situationally speaking, sometimes that doesn't play out the way that you need it to. It's not necessary for you to always be standing up and always be looking forward whenever you go anywhere, especially if you're in a busier place or if you're wanting to get through a location without drawing attention to you, which is not a submissive gesture. It's simply accepting a place in your social circles. What I have so many issues with people like this that really want to do this whole stupid domination thing that they're trying to go into is that they have a very inflated sense of self-importance. They feel like everybody should look at them all the time. They feel like they should be worshipped and things like that, and that's simply not the case socially. Yes, you need to have self-confidence, but self-confidence doesn't mean that you yourself are being abrasive to the people around you. There is a very massive difference here that many of these people will never get because this is what they want to be, is this abrasive, takes up too much space, annoyance in social circles. So let's see what he says about this.
Confidence. To do this, you should always walk around as if there is this straight line running from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. And your rule should be that line never breaks. Number 5, never.
Bull. I don't know how else to say that. Walk. Just walk. It is good to encourage good posture because that can be better for your spine. Everybody knows about good posture. Again, consider your context socially and environmentally and react according to that. Allow yourself to be a more natural version of you rather than this whole slew of you need to do this checklist and you'll become this super dominant person. Because again, if you're so focused on this checklist, people will be able to immediately pick up on how disingenuous you are being. Just be aware of that. Let's keep watching. He's about to talk about thumbs.
Never hide your thumbs. Whenever you're in conversation, always be conscious where your hands are. Many tend to hide their thumbs within their pockets. This makes you seem nervous, almost as if you have something to hide. Look at the immediate difference that happens once you expose your thumbs. An even better approach is to not hide your hand at all and instead use your hands as you speak. Number 6.
That's true with that. I mean, hiding your thumbs, that specific one that he was starting with his thumbs in his pockets, that's called the cowboy pose. It's usually where a person's legs are a little bit further apart, thumbs in pockets, cowboy posing. It can indicate insecurity. Sometimes it can indicate that that's how a person is comfortable with their hands. Perhaps they don't want to use their hands to talk, or they're not very animated with their nonverbal communication while they're talking. For instance, I talk with my hands a lot. It's more difficult for me to just sit here and not talk with my hands at all. I'm very much more talkative with my hands. That's not for everybody. There are some people that they don't like to talk with their hands, and it's something that they have to consciously kind of train themselves to do. And you can train yourself to be more emotive with your nonverbal communication, but you forcing it, especially in a new public situation like this, new social situation, again, will come across as forced and fake. If you don't know what to do with your hands, oftentimes it's better to either 1, place them in an area where you don't have to do things with, or 2, find something to occupy your hands with if you're not comfortable talking with your hands. Not a single point of this guy's video has been at all what you should do. Not a single point. It's, okay, let's go.
Number 6. Always show off your left side. See, the left side of your face is controlled by the right side of your brain. The right side of your brain is the one that's responsible for all motor and muscle function. This is exactly why most people's good side is always their left side and not their right. So then, use this to your advantage. Next time you're in conversation with somebody, slightly shift your body to the side to expose the left side of your face. This will do 2 things. You will look more attractive, but 2, you will appear more interested in what they're saying because you're exposing your ear as if you want to listen to more. Congratulations.
Okay, don't buy into the weird side face thing. 1, some people have fully symmetrical faces. Doesn't matter what side is facing forward. Just talk. And then along with that, asymmetrical faces, one side it's up to preference as well, what a person feels is more attractive or not. So this weird like, oh, always face your left side forward because it's the more attractive side is simply not true. It's not even close to true. There haven't been studies on this. That's just silliness. That's ridiculousness there. The opening of the side of the head to be able to hear better can indeed show interest in what a person is saying audibly because it opens up an audible pathway a little bit more. Also, exposing the neck like that can be a sign of vulnerability with somebody. So that's pretty good if you want to be able to show engagement. Just cock your head a little bit like, yes, I'm listening. Oftentimes this will happen naturally for you because if you're engaged in something, you will want to hear better. And when you want to hear better, your body will do things to make that happen. So again, just a weird, stilted, twisted, nasty way to abuse nonverbal communication to get what you're wanting as presented from this guy. Let's keep watching.
Congratulations! We've made it through 6 tips that are now going to make you more attractive, more dominant, more likable, and more interesting. These last 4 I got for you will help you be confident.
What has made this guy any more interesting? Any of these things that you're doing, it doesn't make you more interesting. If you do all of these things and you're pushing all of these things so heavily, you're not more interesting, you're just more fake in a weirdly abrasive way. It's not making you more interesting. If you want to be more interesting, just rely on yourself and what your interests are, your own personality, your genuine personality to be more interesting. If it's not interesting to the person you're talking to, that's not a you problem. It's just meaning that you and that person are not compatible in that way. You can find other people that will find you specifically interesting. If you're feeling like you have to force all of these things to become more engaging or interesting to people, that's more an indicator that you need to reassess what social circles you're in and whether or not you should be trying to fit into those social circles, or if there's ones that you could fit into more easily and comfortably as yourself and not as this weird caricature. Let's keep watching.
Confident in any awkward situation. Starting with number 7, take up the space you need and don't apologize for it. The usual rule is shoulder width apart stance, where
That's a great point. Take up the space you need, and sure, don't apologize for it. But now that brings into mind the space you need. Again, our skeletal form is only so big. Believe it or not, you don't need more space than that skeletal form rests naturally. As he was saying here, shoulder width apart is a great way to look at it. Again, if you were to be standing and you drew 2 bars across your shoulders, you don't need more outside of that space. You can function fully inside of that. But that's also just in standing gestures. When it comes to sitting down, this is where I start to see a lot of issues with nonverbal communication and the domination style of it, is that many people think that they need to start taking up more space than they need. They'll start spreading their limbs out and taking up more space around them to where it's just not necessary. And it can be extremely abrasive and annoying in many social circles. It's not, oh, this guy is confident. It's, oh, this guy is a prick. Again, it's this mindset. This person is presenting this mindset that he is the best thing to grace the earth. And so he should take up all of this big space. Absolutely not necessary. Now, some people, they are just more loose with their nonverbal communication and they could take up more space. Now, the important facet is how that interacts in the social circles that they're in. If you are a person who takes up a lot more space and that just comes naturally to you, and then you get to an area where you need to kind of be a little bit more reserved with your nonverbal communication, that's where the mindset comes in. Are you going to be respectful of the people around you, or are you going to continue to be broad and boisterous and very abrasive to the social circle around you? That's the determining factor here. Let's continue watching to see how he talks about this.
Whether you are sitting or standing, that means you want your feet planted shoulder width apart. By claiming the space you need, you give off confidence. Number 8. Set the
shoulder width apart. And even in the frames that he was showing there, his feet and legs were not shoulder width apart. While sitting, try to stay within your shoulders frames. If you stray a little bit outside of that, that's pretty okay. Especially if you have your own like designated seating. Like if you have a whole chair to work with, sit however you want in the chair to make yourself comfortable. But if you're in an area that you're sharing a space with somebody, then try to maintain only the space that your actual frame needs. Outside of that, it can become excessive and abrasive, and again, will turn people away from you socially rather than making yourself more available. All of these things so far, I can't, you know? I can't. But alas, I will.
Set the pace of your walk. Many guys do these short, quick, almost frantic-like pacing with their walk because they're in a rush to get to their destination. I want you to set the pace every time you walk, and I want you to follow 3 key rules. Always keep your head high. You remember this previously. Always take steps that are about 2 to 3 feet in length. Make sure they're nice, wide strides. And finally, number 3, you want to sway your shoulders. Number 9.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I mean, if you're like 5 feet, screw you.
Take the hugest steps you can, okay?
No. Don't. That's not important. Yes, a shuffling step with your shoulders hunched in and looking down, you will become a lot less intrusive on the social circle around you, and it can exude a lack of confidence, perhaps some insecurity to be able to see that presented. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't need to always be standing with your head held super high, taking big strides and sway your shoulders like a dick. Like, you don't need to do these things to be able to be a confident person. They can help, and if you do these things, they can actually help you feel more confident as well. But again, it is not a hard, set, fast rule, and especially the weird little measurement thingy. That's just ridiculous because that's completely excluding any form of height variation from person to person. Try to walk again relaxed and comfortably. If you want to, imagine what you would be feeling like if you were walking in a pleasant like country road to a picnic kind of thing. Very relaxed, not stressful. Strolling down, sunny day, that's the sort of energy that you would like to exude, and your nonverbal communication will likely follow in with that because, again, our nonverbal communication, genuine nonverbal communication, is a reflection of our psychological processing and state. Okay, we're getting close to the end of this very painful video. I am relieved by that. Let's keep going.
Sit next to her. Many guys make the mistake of sitting right in front of a girl on the first date. This makes it horrible because it'll show if you're ever nervous and can create uncomfortable situations when nothing's being said. Instead, try sitting next to her. This will make both of you more comfortable and allows for a more confident flow conversation. You can do the same when you're standing up as well. Try standing more off to the side versus directly in front of her. Now you're also giving her the chance to make the move. If she shifts herself in front of you, she is highly interested, which ultimately takes me to number 10.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pause here. So the sitting next to a person. This is hit and miss because it's completely discounting how the other person is feeling in that situation. Sometimes, especially if you're just meeting anybody, it's more acceptable to have that distance of a table, of a booth, of any sort of situation. So sitting across is more natural. Also, his point of like, oh, they'll see if you're nervous. Who cares? If you're nervous, instead of trying to be like, I'm not nervous about it, so I'm gonna sit next to you and try to convince you that I'm not. Instead, just admit, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm feeling nervous, blah, blah, blah. Be genuine, be authentic. Don't try to manipulate them into feeling like you're something that you're not. This whole concept is very fascinating to me, especially when it comes to standing. So he was saying even in standing, try to move close to next to them. If you want to be able to reliably tell who in a group of people is not engaged in that conversation, looking at the direction their feet are pointing is a very reliable tell on that. Try it next time you're in a group. If you're in a group of people and they're all facing each other talking, look at the feet, and whoever's feet are pointing away from that group or away from the person who's speaking, those people are the most likely to want to leave that situation first. This is a fairly reliable tell. Our feet point where we want to go. So with him saying, don't face the person, face away from the person, along with them, beside them, that can subconsciously for us cause us to feel a level of disconnect. So if you want to show engagement to somebody and interest in somebody, don't face away from them, face them. It's fine. That will be perfectly fine. And you don't have to stay in front of them the entire time. If they turn to gesture at something, turn with them, mirror them. Mirroring is extremely important as well because that allows us to feel like we're on the same page psychologically. If there's anything that I would suggest you do to be able to feel like you're more on the same page psychologically and socially with the person that you're interacting with, is to lightly mirror their nonverbal communication. You don't have to like exactly mirror their body language because that becomes very obvious and very creepy very fast, but show that same level of engagement. If they're sitting forward on the table, also sit forward. You don't necessarily have to have your hands on the table, but even just sitting forward, it shows that same engagement. If they're lounging and sitting off to the side, do the same similar sort of thing. It allows them to feel like you are on the same page socially and psychologically. Not this weird, don't face them straight on because they might tell that you're nervous stuff. Anyway, number 10.
Takes me to number 10. Use the pause. When you speak, take time. This is going to avoid you stuttering. This is going to show confidence and control. But more importantly, it's going to make your speech flow way more interesting.
That's just that's how that wraps up. So yes, use a pause regularly. And honestly, it's not even so much use a pause. It's just if you're wanting to feel more in control about a situation or not come across as nervous or frantic, slow your speech pattern down. I, for instance, talk fast. I also don't care that I talk fast. If people want to understand me, they can ask and I can slow down for them. Otherwise, I will talk at whatever speed that I want to talk. It varies. People's speech patterns vary. That being said, if you do want to be able to feel more in control and exude a little bit less frantic energy, speaking more slowly will end up doing that for you. It becomes a lot harder to listen to at times, especially in YouTube videos. That's okay. I was trying to slow down there for a second and it's painful. I have trouble watching YouTube videos because everybody talks so goddamn slow. And I can't do it at the normal speed. It's at least 1.5 speed, sometimes even two times speed. So it's not necessary to always slow down. Sometimes slow is just as bad. But if you would like to be able to make yourself feel a little bit more calm and collected, try slowing down your breathing and try slowing down your speech pattern just a little bit. Don't make it super obvious or obnoxious because again, forced fake, people will pick up on that and they won't like that. Okay, so that's this video. If you're watching this and you're wanting to present non-verbally in a way that's socially acceptable, make sure, one, that you're in the social circles that you yourself should be in. Find the people that like you for you. And if you can't be in those areas, some of these tips can work, but again, keep in mind that your goal is not to dominate an area to exude confidence. Domination and confidence do not walk hand in hand. You can dominate an area and be extremely insecure, as what I'm gathering somewhat from this video, or you can take up your space and be confident with who you are, and that confidence, that genuine confidence, will show through much, much, much more than any of this weird fake riffraff that has been presented here. So if you did like these sorts of things, then maybe this debunking reaction style thing, let me know in the comments below. If you have any other requests for analysis style videos, the normal ones that I do, go ahead and throw those out in the comments as well. You can reach out to the socials. I am fairly active on there, so I'll hopefully be able to see that. I really do like to hear these more specific requests. I have a log of them that I can go back to and refer to regularly. So if you have any things like that, please let me know. I have a landing page down in the description of this video, shows resources and certifications that I have. So if you're interested in starting your own journey into nonverbal communication reading, the possibilities and the professional space that has, go into the description of this video and check that out. Again, go check out Spidey over at the Behavioral Arts. He does a fantastic job at doing very similar videos to how this is and the analysis style videos. Him and I have interacted for many years now, and so I could not push his channel enough to you. He is definitely one of those channels that I do trust the opinion of. So go check his stuff out if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, hit the like button, subscribe, all those things that people say. But without further ado, that's all that I've got for the day. My name is Logan, and you have been oh so awesome as you always are, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.